from competitive rivals to like on the analyst desk together now, it doesn't feel very different because it feels like even though we weren't on the same team, I guess we always got along so well that it carried over.
Plus, we've been playing together since we started, and we've just known each other for so long. It feels totally natural to just hang out and chat about the game with this guy. So it's great. In the good old days, it was like, okay, we didn't scrim you guys, you didn't scrim us, so it was just, you know, our strategies kind of filtered to each other through the lower teams. Yeah. And then it got to the finals and we're like, all right, let's see whose plans work out better this time, boys.
What I remember more than anything is Las Vegas. When we're sitting on the stage, they had us come out before the grand finals, but they bring us on stage, and then you and I were the supports, and we're sitting on the inside because we're both the captains as well. And then we go together or whatever, and then all you had to say was, we made it.
That moment was definitely one of the most touching moments of my career for sure, because we had been playing for so long since Alpha, and like Vegas was the first big production.
For me, the hardest thing from a playing competitive standpoint was trying to work with a team dynamic. There are so many variables going on with so many different tensions, like egos, goals. It's so immensely difficult to find 5 people who have the same goal and same approach to get to it and are willing to put other people before themselves.
If I was in charge of trying to make NA a competitive international top tier region in the world, I think the #1 thing I would do is find players who are still hungry. They have talent, but no egos allowed in my team. I would lock it down and make sure everyone says, okay, we respect our teammates, we're gonna practice, we're gonna try as hard as we can. The only thing that matters is international.
Stop worrying about what you think is good. Stop being like, well, this is how North America does it, and start worrying about how does the world do it, and then how can I change it and make it better.
Well, if you think about back when you were a player, like, surely you didn't respect the casters' opinions about what was good.
Yeah, I know, so I get it,
You know, having been there and knowing as a player, you're like, no, I know better than you, I practice this game, I'm a monster, I don't want to hear what you have to say, like.
It's weird, and that mentality is exactly it. Like when you're playing, you don't go, you know, I'm really confused about this situation, what if I just approached a caster to hear their point of view? Like that is unheard of.
That was actually one of the hardest things for me, transitioning, is losing that, you know, family unit I basically had. I still get to hang out with them, I can get in comms if I want, but it's just not the same.
For the most part though, like when it comes to like the friendship dynamic and everything else, it's not like you look at Cap and you're like, well, we can't talk anymore. Like it's like I still see Zuna and I'm just like, hey, what's up? You know, how's life been going? So I don't know, I think that part's pretty much the same.
Oh boy, this is the embarrassing part.
Sonya's Shattered Ground increases seismic slam splash damage. 5 times, right?
5 times, let's go.
Okay.
Sonya's Shattered Ground increases slam damage. Sonya's Shattered Slam, oh gosh.
Seismic slam splash damage. Under your tongue. Sonya's Shattered Ground increases seismic slam damage. I can't do it!
Did you know that Sonya's Shattered Ground increases seismic slam splash damage?
So if I was to take Shattered Ground, you're saying my splash damage on my seismic slam would be increased.
Oh, the splam, your Shattered Ground splam would be
done! Words are hard.
That's right, how the mighty have fallen, forced into retirement after a lack of results and changing of egos here. Welcome to day #2, a huge welcome to you here at PAX West. I'm joined to the left of me by, indeed, the retirement corner here on Concave Analysis Corner, as we have Mr. Dreadnought and Dunk Train with us. I mean, what went wrong, boys?
I don't even know at this point.
I'm a pleasure to be with you here once again, guys. Dunk, loving it?
Oh, yeah. The game is too hard. Casting, way better.
Casting way better. Easy paychecks, right? Easy paychecks. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys. But of course, there is a serious point behind all of this. For a long time, you guys were standing on top of the American scene, and you guys were rivals for a long time when it came to it. Now the American scene has changed. We've seen a lot of change, a lot of evolution, new blood coming in, and being able to ascend to the top. Compare it to how you were before, a year ago, a year and a half ago. what do you see now in the American scene? You've got teams like GFE and Noventic in today's group who are clear rivals with one another, especially now that we see Fan on GFE. So how do you see the dynamics now?
Now the dynamic is a little more varied. Back in our day, I would say the two of us pretty much never didn't make a finals. So the rivalry had a long time to grow. And there were periods where they were dominant, there were periods where we were dominant. So the rivalry had a long time to kind of wax and wane, and everyone got really familiar with just us in the grand finals. Whereas I feel like the NA scene right now, you know, the top 4 teams are a lot closer. Last event, we saw Murlocs triumphing. You know, GFE and Noventic is a rivalry, but it's not as storied as ours was.
I think the major difference is stability within results, right? We see, like, again, it was the grand finals, and then almost everybody else still had a place that they almost always felt. There was only like 1 to 2 changes. I mean, it's a name that we don't know that well, but even the fact that Vox Nihili pulled top 4 and then doesn't qualify for the next regional,
right,
that alone already shows like how drastically different North America is than it ever was. That was unheard of, that idea that somebody could be top 4 and then not even make the next event. So I think that, without a doubt, is the biggest change that we see between the two.
Is the skill deeper than ever before in North America?
I think it's hard to say. I think if we look at a lot of the regions, the minute that stability dies down, for the most part, it looks overall like the game quality deteriorates. I think China is another good example.
Yeah.
When they lose E-Star and EDG, their games now look more chaotic than ever.
Even when all the same talent is in the scene, the fact that a big team broke down and suddenly the talent disperses, you lose a lot of the synergy that all those teams had built up. So for a while, it looks worse, even if maybe there's the same amount of overall talent to develop.
Yeah. And one final question. Can you remember the tongue twister or no?
Sonya's Seismic Slam increases, or Sonya's Shatter Ground increases Seismic Slam splash damage. It is Seismic Splam is all you want to say when you say that thing.
Seismic Splash. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dred. Of course, let's take a look at the tournament overview as a whole and see what is going to be going down here in the Heroes of the Storm Global Circuit, as currently we are in day number 2 of the Fall Championship number 2 here for America. We've already had 2 teams advance from Europe in Dignitas and Fnatic. And then, of course, across the world, the battle continues and rages to find out who is going to qualify for BlizzCon. Let's take a look at the schedule for today, as well as what went down yesterday and what's going to be coming up tomorrow. As today, we will be starting things off with Gale Force Esports and Imported Support, and then Team Noventic versus Astral Authority. Previously in the tournament, of course, we had team name change. Unfortunately, not able to be victorious despite having a good showing yesterday. And Murloc Geniuses advanced on in second place, with Denial taking first. So quite a lot of craziness actually went on yesterday. It was definitely a varied day of Heroes of the Storm. And in fact, at the end of the day, I went on to say to you guys that it seemed like the most varied day of professional Heroes of the Storm that we've ever seen in the entire circuit.
I think that's safe to say. It was, without a doubt, strategically, hero choice-wise, everything of the like, it was the most diverse ever, I think. I can't even name a different region that I feel the same. Maybe China, but I don't know, not in one day, but they have a different format, so it doesn't count. But still, very few regions have exactly what we saw yesterday. And I'm still sitting here trying to figure out if I think it's beautiful or if it's just like I have no idea what's happening. I can't figure it out yet.
It's muddled your mind a little bit.
Yeah, I think today we're going to find out if yesterday was just kind of a fluke or like a rare situation, or if that's the entire North American scene.
All right, well, let's check in over at the Xfinity casting desk, as we have 2 very, very familiar faces to check in with.
What's up, guys? I'm Solid Jake, joined here with Trixler, and yeah, we saw some crazy games yesterday, tons of great strats.
Sergeant Hammer, Malfurion, Medivh heroes being pulled out left and right. Yesterday was pretty crazy, but I've heard today might not be as crazy.
Well, we'll find out.
Thank you very much, guys. Of course, they'll be bringing you the first series in just a little bit's time, so make sure to stay tuned for those guys. As, of course, you know, they were even alluding to the fact that yesterday was crazy. We saw things like Cho'Gall. We saw things like Sergeant Hammer actually come out. I asked you previously what your highlight was at the very end of the day, but Dunk, is there anything else that really stood out to you yesterday?
So outside of that game I was talking about with K1 on Medivh on Towers of Doom, the other things that stood out to me were Koth and Sergeant Hammer play. Was actually really excellent, the way they utilized that in their team composition with the Zool.
And here's a bit of a recap of yesterday throughout the day, as this was one of the highlights, really, of the day, Dred. It was Murloc Geniuses going up against Denial, and Denial did look good, actually going up against the current reigning North American champions.
No, they put up a really great showing with creative compositions throughout the entire day. It was pretty impressive. This was, without a doubt, the Chaos comp that they ended up running to great success, just constantly making to where Murloc had no idea who they were going to focus, and if so, when was the appropriate time to. I love the play that we saw out of them. I was very impressed with how they approached those team fights that day.
It really felt like that Towers of Doom game that we saw towards the end was definitely the MVP moment of the day. Regardless of Chaos Comp, regardless of how it went down, it was fantastic to watch. And then, of course, Murloc Geniuses had to battle their way through the lower bracket, going up against a formidable TNC, a TNC that we have not seen as strong in the past 3 regionals that they've been in.
They were stronger this regional, but then Murlocs turned it up. In their match against TNC in Game 2 of the second match, they're like, oh no, it's serious time. We're pulling out the big guns. Hammer, and just destroyed. 4-level lead at the end of the game, which is so difficult to do.
It wasn't even close, really, with that Hammer play. And we've been speaking about the changes, about the patch that this current tournament is being played on. And Hammer, is there the potential that we see more Hammer coming throughout the tournament?
Yeah, no, there is definitely an opportunity that we'll see more Hammer. I think there's a lot of map variations where she still gains viability. I don't know if it'll be as successful as we saw yesterday, like we said, when you have the Zul and you're winning the top lane. Pretty much if you lose all 3 lanes in Dragonshire, it's going to be that 4-level lead. I think she has a spot for sure, and she will show up more today, though.
All right, well, let's check in with what is going to be going on today throughout the entirety of the tournament here, as we will have Group B to kick things off, and what a stacked group it is. Later on during the morning, we will have Team Niventic going up against Astral Authority, but our first match here in this double elimination format will be Gale Force Esports going up against Imported Support, and this is a match that a lot of people are looking at as one in this group that might be a bit more one-sided, considering it is Gale Force Esports going up against Imported Support, but Imported Support are the true underdog and potentially dark horse of the tournament. They are a team that we have never seen before in one of the NA regionals. Even their players that we haven't really seen much of. I think the highlight for them is really Shop, who was able to actually win Heroes of the Dorm. So what are you expecting here from Imported Support coming into this group? You can be honest. I'm okay with that.
Coming into this group, I think you'd have to be foolish to say anything other than Imported Support came in as 8th seed, and nobody's expecting them to beat Gale Force. Their best bet, I think, is to pull out some weird strategies and try to out-cheese Gale Force, because Gale Force's roster is just so stacked. I mean, I don't know how these guys can stand up to them.
Right.
I think that's absolutely the approach that they're going to need if they're going to have success in this series. I would be amazed if they do more of a traditional composition and is successful against Gale Force. And then on the side of Gale Force, I think we're looking for the same thing we saw yesterday when it came to Murlocs in the first game versus TNC. We expect them to win. It's how convincing and how confident they look while they're doing it, especially with the pickup of having Fan. Right? It's the first time we really get to see them, how well he synergizes with the rest of the team, especially since him and Mike kind of play the same role.
Right, that's exactly what we wanted to get onto, of course. Here is Gale Force Esports, a previous North American champion, and now with the roster swap that they have coming into this NA regional, oh boy, is this one probably the most hyped roster swap, I would say, of the current standing here in North America. Fan coming in for the now retired Rafflecopter here to fulfill this. When I looked at this roster, though, coming in, what was interesting when they made the switch is that I was curious as to how they were going to formulate even just the roles. As you were mentioning, there is a little bit of overlap there. So what do you think about the swap as a whole, and then also the roles that they may encompass in that turn?
I mean, I love the swap. I think it's very, very good for Gale Force in the long run.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is that they seem to be going with what I would consider like a Cloud9-esque approach to who's playing the melee, where depending on the melee, it would be iDream, or depending on the melee, it would be Fan. And that's not always a bad thing. I think it is okay. I just don't know if they've got enough time to truly figure out what's the best arrangement for them to have it to where it could be something that we see kind of hindered their play.
Dunk?
I agree with everything Dredd said. I mean, when you're running a new roster and you haven't had that much time to practice, yeah, they got to make the roster change almost immediately after the last event, but that's still just not that much time to iron out every kink. And when you're in a game as complex as Heroes, where the drafts can go so wild, it really does take a long time to find out in what composition everyone is in their best role.
Of course, make sure to join in with the conversation with the hashtag HGC. And make sure to include the hashtag as to who you think is actually going to win this game as well, as we'll be tallying up who is taking favor with the public over in the Twitterverse and social media. Get that buzz going over on Twitter as well, of course. For now, though, looking at these two teams as a whole, you were mentioning that Imported Support is in a position where they are indeed the underdogs. You're expecting them to maybe bring out something a little bit more varied, a little bit more wild. Our first map is going to be Tomb of the Spider Queen. A map where Imported Support seems to feel comfortable, and we are going into the draft right away here, powered by HotS, and it will be Imported Support picking second here on Tomb of the Spider King because it was their choice of map.
Going with the Zagara first pick for Gale Force, we talked about it all yesterday, right? This is an insane pickup for them. It's a great map as well. Giving up Fawcett Thrall. Thrall is going to be a solid response as well, and then Fawcett objectively is very, very strong. This means that Imported actually, they have an opportunity to move in towards a European approach on this map. I don't think they will. With Ariel already banned out as well on the side of Gale Force, that's something it's really interesting to know.
The Ariel ban already as first pick, banning out that Ariel just shows these teams have prioritized that so highly. It was played a few times yesterday, not the most common, seeing some bans. So it's interesting to see that these teams value that so differently on different maps.
Is this it?
Is this it?
Already got the Leoric. What, are they going to go with Lunara or Tassadar? Or are they going to just avoid it and just do the Leo solo? You can get away with that on this map. You don't have to commit to go with Zool instead. I actually really enjoy that pickup.
The thing that really makes it work so well for the European team, specifically Fnatic, is the fact that almost all of their picks around it have some sustain themselves.
Yeah.
Zagara and Zool, I mean, okay, there's a little bit there when it comes to lane clear, but other than that, it's not quite as efficient, I would say, with a solo task.
And I think another thing, too, is just because how Europe pretty much does not play Zool for the most part, and he could be a proper response to that style of strategy. Instead of rotating with the map that Fnatic always wants to do, rotate the opposite direction and gain equal value, and then take the teamfight later, because they usually struggle in that dynamic. So I like that fact that they have gone with more of a Zool. But right now, that means that Gale Force dominates the solo, at least goes 50-50, and their four-man is insane right now. Zool, Leo is some of the best wave clear possible.
Yeah, I mean, overall, they're going to take massive command of the early game, right, Dunk?
We've seen that before. Niventic used this very similar draft where in their 1-2 slot as second pick, they went Zagara Zool, and it absolutely was devastating. It felt like the enemy team could never get out on the map. They were always under pressure from Zagara minions, Zool wave clear. So I don't know how Imported Support is going to respond to this.
Yeah, and with the Lunara band, which is only going to complement their style of play that we see on Gale Force, I wonder if they're worried about Sylvanas instead going with the medic band, which leaves the opportunity for a Sylvanas to come through on the side of Imported.
This medic ban popping up time and time again here in America.
It is.
It's interesting.
It is.
It's not what I expected.
There must have been something happening in scrims. Like there must have been some strategy occurring where late in the draft people were picking a medic and it just felt unbeatable. And if you're Gale Force and you're going in and you feel like the only way you can lose is to something crazy, maybe medic is a ban, but Tychus, Brightwing, that is unusual. Brightwing is pretty much unheard of on this map.
Yeah, just because she gains no value out of the global. She doesn't do, not that she doesn't do well in the rotations, but she doesn't do great in them either. And I also thought just with how much map objective focus we see for Gale Force, picking up a Sylvanas to complement when you do manage to get a turn in for Imported was very crucial.
With Tychus and Brightwing, are they expecting potential double warrior and then just even more melee focus as a whole?
I think it's just to Leo. We saw it yesterday. When you take Tychus into the Leoric, you essentially force the Wraith Walk instantly. And when he gets out of it, he's going to be very, very low. So it's a solid, just you burst down the Leoric and suddenly he gains far less value as a hero in a lot of situations.
Kael'thas is a dead hero, or so we thought. We watched all of yesterday. He didn't even get considered in the draft. It seemed like nobody's been talking about him, as far as I could tell, from practice sessions or anything like that. So, when he first got changed, we were thinking, oh, maybe Q build is the way to go Kael'thas now. And I want to see, is that going to be good enough on this map? Because it does provide at least a reasonable amount of wave clear, especially in combination with the Zool.
Sorry, just re-jog my memory. The current Kael'thas is Flame Strikes for days, right?
I mean, yeah, for the most part. Yeah. With the removal of Gravity Crush and things like that, he's in a very unique position. The one thing that he does do is he's still insane when it comes to the wave clearing rotations. He complements that very, very well, which they already have so much of. But again, I am curious as to that choice over. I feel like it's going to be a rare word to say, but I'd still like Jaina would have been able to do the same thing, like wave clear, in something that they may have wanted in their composition. I feel like it would do okay-ish into Imported, but they go with the Kael'thas, so apparently he's not as dead as we thought he was.
Plus, the ETC last pick is really surprising for me from imported support, I feel like they struggle heavily in the wave clear department, and even if they take ETC, they don't have the best kill potential, especially on like a Leoric. So I would have liked to see the Johanna in this situation, even though it's not my favorite outside of these rotation-based maps.
And if you have to go with a lockdown tank and you feel like you need the CC, I still feel like Murden would be more of a selling point, again, only because the CC, that when ETC goes in a position to try to stun lock somebody, he risks his own positioning. That is his escape, as long as with his aggression. So then he doesn't do too well in the matchup with like against the Leoric in the lane, doesn't complement wave clear, and then he also is going to be risking his own positioning, and there is a reasonable amount of kill potential on the side of Gale Force's composition in the early game.
Right. Of course, imported support is a team that we're not as familiar with compared to Gale Force Esports, and the reason they are called imported support for anybody out there is because they actually have a member that is not North American. He's actually a Brit in HotS that actually came over and is studying at ASU. Is it ASU?
I don't know what school he's studying at specifically. I know Shot does study at ASU, but essentially because he is studying, he has the opportunity to play in the North American region.
But he's a Brit, and thus I know which I'm siding with,
So,
which is fine. That's okay. I can do that, I suppose. But it is going to be a little bit difficult for them, do you think, because of the draft and potentially even because of the talent? I mean, imported support did say that this is their best map, but is that enough for them to actually trump one of the previous North American champions?
I think when you look at Tomb and Dragon, you can always decide roughly who's going. Anybody can win, always, right?
Yeah.
But you can always base a majority of who's probably going to just off of laning matchups alone. The bottom lane, unless you get a large amount of picks on Zag, she's going to be okay, and you definitely have the stronger 4-man sitting on the side of Gale Force. So it comes down to, if they don't somehow fall far behind, I'm guessing it's going to be like a level lead pre-10, honestly, which is how dominant we see Gale Force's comp being in the early game. As long as that doesn't happen, maybe they can take a team fight in the back half, but even then, I don't feel like GFE is weak.
All right, let's get into it then. Game number 1 here between Gale Force Esports and imported support. Dunk, who are you looking out for here in our first game of the day?
For imported support to have any chance in this game, I think Shot is going to have to find an insane number of pickoffs using Falstads Global, so that's what I'm going to keep an eye on.
All right then, and Dread, finally, quick thoughts?
I think Beacon, he's got to play very well in the Leoric and see how well he does with the front line.
All right, thank you very much, boys. We'll be checking with you in just a little bit. Let's head over to the Xfinity casting desk for game number 1 here, and it's going to be Jake and Trixula taking you into the action.
Thanks so much, guys. We're going into Tomb of the Spider Queen, the very first day of the game. Trick, how you feeling about these drafts?
Oh, very interesting. Gale Force is playing the map, where imported support is playing what they're used to. They're very comfortable here. In fact, HotS being on Brightwing, I know Dunk called it out a little bit because it's kind of weird on this battleground, but HotS, if he's not playing Brightwing, the level of play that this team has for a support diminishes heavily. So Brightwing is their best option here for trying to win the game, and this is one of their favorite battlegrounds, so they do have the chance here to do well, but Gale Force has such a strong lineup.
It's interesting because, like, you think about Brightwing in some of the other regions, and Brightwing has never been super prominent, but we have players like Akaface, players like, HotS, even if he is imported from the land of Brexit. All love that hero so much.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious what HotS is going to run here. I look at the opposing team, and I think you need Cleanse here to deal with Bone Prison, to deal with Kael'thas and his aggression for the Gravity Lapse. But I know HotS heavily favors a Soothing Mist build, and the team loves it. They always hang around. They're very grouped up. What they do is they run 4 rotations, and they wait till they get to level 10, and then Falstad, Shot, is supposed to be their playmaker. He's supposed to hit these Mighty Gust. Everyone else stays grouped, and then he makes the call on who they're going to kill, and they go from there. And that's how this team is coordinated. Their shot calling can be a little bit wonky at sometimes, but you can tell the team is completely behind the shot calling at all points. So it's all going to be about how they get to level 10 safely and about how they execute.
Well, you mentioned Brightwing likes to go for the Soothing Mist, Unfurling. This is going to be that level 1 talent just to give the additional radius for that Brightwing. Everything else looking pretty darn standard. Zagara is going to go for that Infest, just have that big pressure. The ranged minions really become quite the threat.
Yeah. Another thing I'm watching at is actually Crowan down here in the bottom right corner. Coming to this tournament, there's a few people, I don't know why, but they're very vocal that I think Crowan might be a one-trick pony when it comes to Li Ming. And he did bring Tracer at the last regional, but she did get some slight nerfs, so therefore she might not be as viable. In fact, talk to Crowan, and he's going to think that he's actually going to pull Tracer out this entire tournament. So I want to see how he pulls off his Zagara down here in the bottom lane. I would love to see him perform at a tournament like we see him do on a stream very often.
You know, it's interesting that quite a few people do have that opinion that he is that quote-unquote one-trick pony, but I've personally never felt that way. I mean, Crowan is a talented player. If you watch his stream, you can see him, really just rocking just about every hero. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm excited to see his Zagara play because this is the first time I believe I've seen him actually bust a hero in tournament.
Well, looking at the rotations here for imported support, it looks like they're going to go for a 1-3-1. Just hold down the middle lane, don't lose it forward. You can lose the wall if you need to. Falstad can hold the top lanes mildly safely. It's going to burn some mana, but he can always fly in if he bees back, so he'll be fine there. And then Thrall versus Zagara is a normal matchup. So Gale Force is going to try and put as much pressure as possible and make sure to get these creep tumors down and hold out from there and just go for a quick turn-in. I think that's their best option here, as it looks like imported support is just going to play a little bit safe.
Yeah, imported support kind of has to play safe. When you compare the lane clear available to them, it's significantly weaker. And
shot flying down the bottom lane there. Brightwing does rotate up. It looks like he was trying to go for a kill on Crowan, but Crowan's playing relatively safe here. He's not doing anything too advantageous. And Raw,
yeah, with shot missing here in the top part of the map, we see a bit of pressure going in. Leo will be able to Wraith walk back. He's going to be okay. But yeah, as I was saying, is like, you know, on the side of imported support, if they're not careful, these rotations, the things like Bone Prison can really catch them off guard, and that's like the only super hard lockdown. But still, when it comes to the rotations, if Leo can get in your face and body block you, the chance of you dying is quite high.
Yeah, they're going to have to be watching the mini-map as much as possible. Shots up here trying to get some poke on that back line there so he can start dealing with the front line here, because he's already has this entire tower wave drained all of his ammo. Yeah. Here at 2 minutes, that's how hard it is for Falstad to solo lane a lane. He has to hit a Q that hits all the minions there, and that alone by itself doesn't even clear the entire wave, so he has to work on the auto attacks and depend on the towers. That's going to be a very, very painful lane later on whenever we do have a turn-in occur for the team. Udall and B-Kid moving up here, grabbing some damage here on shot. And I know, just speaking about this, there are, I believe, 5 players here that played in Heroes of the Dorm. There is some history here between these players. Hecarim J, you have Shot, Akaface, you have Michael Udall, guys that really...
Fan, from Season 1 champion. Actually, that's the cool thing about Gale Force with Fan on the roster. Yeah. You have Udall and Fan, champions from Season 1 and Season 2 on the same team.
Yeah, and I know they really want to prove to Shot that they could beat him. They've had him on the team before, but then again, there's kind of that little slight rivalry as they have worked together in the past that could be popping up throughout the match. So watch out for Gale Force Esports to bring the pain. I do want to mention as we move to the mid game here, 5-5 in levels. Haven't had too many pickoffs. Things are going relatively well here for imported support, but we're finally potentially going to see a kill here as Hecarim J is taking some damage. Haas staying near though, applying the heals as need be, and somehow Hecarim J does survive.
Yeah, 103 HP left on the table there as he survived. Good shields coming through from that. The Brightwing just having that pixie dust to make sure he can run back, tap the well. Level 4 has been picked up on either side. It's going to be a full-on feral wolf version of the Rhaegar. Pretty standard. We are going to see those skeletons become more and more annoying throughout the game. I mean, Zool in general in lane is just a beast. He's got the clear, and he just summons up all those skeletons, which, as we saw in the top lane, absorbs all the ammunition so quickly.
I'm kind of curious. Imported support's really trying to get a turn in here, and it feels like they're trying to bait a kill on their opponents, potentially on Leoric, as he'll be the one leading the charge, as they constantly keep trying to right-click that turn-in spot. So I believe they want to fight. They want to scuffle. I would like for them to wait till the mid-game, get to level 10, because it's so important for them so they can make those plays and really burn down the opponents when they get into those scenarios.
Okay, so exactly enough gems. Well, both teams can turn in if they like, but it's much closer on the side of GFB. They've already got 34 in the bank. Rowan's trying to buy some time from the traded here in the bottom, and the fly-in from Shot. They might get Crowan, and they will get the pick-off here, but have they overextended? The rotation is here for GFB. Haas is in a bad spot. He will end up falling. But it's pretty darn even in the rest of this. Ignition going to try to get away, but the Gravity Lapse does connect. The damage coming in from Kael'thas. The explosion, not quite enough from that living bomb, and he will be able to survive.
Well, Phase Shift is available in 8 seconds. You see imported support dancing around, but Gale Force wants some takedowns here. Fan walks up, applies a living bomb. Dreaded, however, will himself, and there is continuous back and forth here. But I'd love to see somebody move to a different lane there and soak during that entire duration. The fight was a little bit too back and forth, a little bit too much brawling for my taste. However, Shot trying to be a bit aggressive here, trying to slow down the turn-in, is going to take some damage, but Udall will finish a turn-in, and the first turn-in of the day will be going to Gale Force, and you can bet they're going to be pushing either the bottom lane or the top lane, as both are already exposed.
The question is, how much can they actually get done with this first turn-in? Things are still very even. If they get this kill on Tychus, that really opens things up. Ignition will end up dying the last moment. Now Haas is very low as well, but P-Kid feeling very confident considering those 2 towers are out of ammo.
Yeah, Gale Force is finally turning up the heat here, trying to find their opponents that are being a little bit too risky.
Zagara,
ooh, Crowan actually getting picked off there. Looks like in the middle lane here. Shot, though, did overextend for that kill, and he will be punished with a Bone Prison. And just so you know, Brightwing did not get cleansed here.
Right.
Which means that any Bone Prison that comes in either needs to be supported immediately, or the shot needs to be called that, hey, everyone back up, we give up that kill.
That's such a greedy play, right?
Yeah.
To go for Unfurling Mists and just have, like you mentioned, he really likes just specking all that healing. I'm assuming we're gonna have Emerald Wind as the disengage instead of the cleanse, because yes, it will also, you know, amplify that the trait of Brightwing. But it's gonna be tough because as you can see, when these gravity laps hit, when these Bone Prisons hit, the heroes fall quick.
Yeah, and I think Emerald Wind is the choice. They're going to have to go that route. But I do believe HotS enjoys going point kill so he can get the playmaking situation.
Okay.
So, and we might not even see it, man.
Interesting.
Shot, once again, taking more damage. And it seems like Gale Force is just miles ahead in terms of coordination. We saw a lot of pokes happening from important support in the lanes, and now Gale Force getting a read on their opponents and seeing they're playing a bit more aggressive than they should, are starting to rotate and just taking free pickings. What's that, 4 kills now? No, 2 kills?
I mean, Tim,
4.
generally speaking, when you see a turn-in, the first turn-in of the game on Tomb of the Spider Queen, you're lucky to get a single fort.
Yeah.
All 3 forts have gone down, and it's like a level and a half lead right now.
Well, that's all domino effect here, because they had the pick off from the top on that
Right.
Tychus, and they took the top fort, they took the bottom fort, and now the middle fort already being taken out. Another pick happening once again here. You're not level 10. You are not supposed to be in any scenario where you can be picked off here. As Gale Force is showing their hand. They're willing to play aggressive. They are literally styling on you right now. Need to back up, wait to get to level 10, and then at some point, start grouping up and start getting vision on the map.
This is tough. They did go for the blink heal, so the Brightwing doesn't have that kind of, you know, peel, that kind of utility to try to save his allies. Literally has to rely on 100% healing, blinking in, and then the polymorph, and that's like all in the kit. But they do have the Gust, they do have the Mosh, and they do have the Sundering. So there are other options from the rest of the team, but Gust is already spent. 1 minute cooldown has been thrown out here.
There's engage on the bottom right, though, as 4 members do walk in.
3-man Maw?
3-man devouring Maw, walking down multiple members. Nice hit there by Crow, and there will be the follow-up.
Where's
The
the
living
entomb?
bomb hitting a couple of members. Hecarim J
There it is.
will be entombed there. Now low on HP, and ETC with Fall, and the health bars here are very healthy, very robust
Yeah.
for Gale Force.
I mean, they're outclassing imported support right now. I mean, in every way. They're going to get that back-to-back turn-in. This turn-in is going to not only throw them to level 13, but they're going to be well on their way towards that, you know, almost like 2 talent tier advantage at this rate. If they get keep towers, the amount of experience that they're just going to like absorb is going to be a lot.
I'm actually kind of curious why we didn't have Thrall open up a Sundering down there when Shot was caught and he used the Mighty Gust to push those 4 members down. A Sundering could have been enough lockdown to get someone picked off at that point. If Tychus had walked forward, started getting damage on that Leoric or anyone important. But there's no major upfront damage until Thrall starts auto-attacking. I'm thinking Sundering would have been very helpful there, and it would have prevented the 3-person maul from happening.
Oh my goodness, that Web Weaver wave hit 3 targets. Just so much damage that Brightwing has to deal with. Actually, 3 people ended up tapping the well. The Gust in though onto Fan. Can's going to go down very quickly.
Okay.
So that's really nice. Killfoss is down. The grenade coming out with that quarterback. Not enough to displace Aquaface to the point where they can capitalize.
Yeah, and Gale Force realizes, you know what, we've lost somebody, pull back immediately. We're pretty far ahead in this map. We don't want to have 2 or 3 pickoffs here, because if you lose 2 or 3 members there, suddenly a turn-in's available, and then import support could be on a path to getting themselves back in the game. And that's where comeback potential happens. Gale Force making the correct call and immediately pulling away.
So their Web Weaver will expire. Now they have pretty much spent their bank here on the map. On the side of imported support, they've got 75 in their pockets, 14 already turned in. So they could do that back-to-back turn-in if they can find that opportunity, maybe get another pick. But they have to wait for level 13 right now because you don't want to look for a fight when you're down that talent tier.
Yeah, the only way they could have done that turn-in is if they went immediately and then started having some kind of zoning. Dorado would have been the main target for getting the turn-in, as he's carrying currently 46 gems for imported support, and that's very scary on Thrall, because Thrall is more of this like poking warrior, you bring in some damage when you can, but suddenly you're a little bit afraid to go in for those pokes if you're carrying so much weight on your character for your team.
Well, they almost have that level 13.
They're close. They're getting there. Falset's trying to look at the top left, waiting for them to show up on the map. Now realizing that 5 members are in the middle of the battleground here. We can start seeing Tychus and Falset start moving towards getting a little bit of experience. But you can see how scared they are. The 5-man rotations from Udall and crew have been incredibly aggressive. I think Tychus actually should have gone to the bottom right there at that point and pushed out that lane, because Falset's going to escape no matter what. That's experience that he missed out on, but decided to go ahead and elect to move to the middle lane and help his teammate.
Okay, VKid's dropping off his 11. They're still quite far away from actually being able to get a turn in, but, well, halfway at this point, because everyone else dropped their coins off. But level 13 has been reached, so now we can start to see Import Support look for that play. As we saw that one nice Mighty Gust that set them up for the kill on Fan. If they can set that up or maybe get the flanking Sunder, you know, find 1 or 2 pickoffs early on in the fight, they can easily take this and bring this game well back into their control.
All right, watching BKed here. He will be most likely the engagement for this team, landing in N2 on someone important. Potentially Tychus could be a great pickoff for them. Even landing out on Thrall would be great. Thrall can kind of slender his way out, but still walking him down that area could give you enough time to burn him down. Fan does walk in here, apply the gravity lapse, and misses everyone, actually.
Yeah.
And that will make Gale Force actually pull away. You saw Zul immediately just go to the middle lane. Because if you don't hit that gravity lapse, what's the point of diving in? You open yourself up to a Sundering, you open yourself up to a mosh pit.
I also love this confidence, though, with Zul going to mid like that. He's just, Michael Little's just saying, look, if you want to rotate straight up through the map, have fun with that because we're here waiting for you.
Dude,
you need to go all the way back. You need to concede your positioning at that coffer, and then you need to push this lane back because that mid lane, we already did some pressure on the tower. The ammunition's already low.
That's a Zul life. The moment you realize you're not going to be in team fight and you have nothing to help, you just go push a lane, and he's doing it at the top lane and the mid lane, and he'll continue to do that throughout the entire game. Graded Dez now, solo by himself, has enough gems here to go for a turn-in and reward his team, the Web Weaver. So keep an eye on him, see if he's ever going to be doing that. Also, in the bottom, we have Falset trying to pull members down. Come look at me. Come look in this area. And if they have a chance, if 2 people come to deal with Falstad, he could rotate immediately into a different fight and get into a scenario where Important Support has a 5v4.
Okay, VKid is chasing him back. That Drain Hope doing a lot of damage. The Bone Prison has been cast as well on Hecker MJ, but not a big threat. No need for cleanse, even though it's not here, but, you know, just going to be able to back away safely. So both the control abilities have, you know, were used.
Dude, Jake, Imported Support looks so terrified right now.
They're just playing scared.
Their movements from the early game are really dictating how they're moving in the mid to late game right now. You just see them playing so passively, trying to sneak a turn in, and they do just barely do it. B-Kid will be able to grab Hecker MJ here. Wait for him to wait. He's waiting for Crowan to get in a position where he could get the power slide. However, Crowan played patient enough. There goes the Mighty Gust, pushing people back from the Bone Prison, so Hecker MJ will live. Anti-synergy, but you do allow your teammate to live here, which means you can start pushing. So it's not too bad here, because they're able to have all 5 members that can try to get some kind of value somewhere on here. And if they can get a fort, that gets them closer to being even with Gale Force.
That's true. They do need that quick, though. Level 16 is around the corner. Shot being collapsed upon. Barrel rolling away, but he is found by that Bone Prison before the flight can be activated, and that is one roast chicken. The Web Weaver in the bottom will go down very quickly. The other 2, top lane getting a bit of value, but I mean, maybe they'll get the single fort in top. They need to retreat because they do not have 16 or Falstad.
So this happened in the qualifiers all the time on 2 Minutes Spider Queen. We would have 4 members pushing, and we would have Falstad go to a different lane. But normally it would have Mighty Gust. Mighty Gust was used in the last fight. That means Shot needs to change up his playstyle until he has that heroic available. He needs to group with his team and wait it out, because Gale Force has shown throughout the entire game that if they see someone isolated, they're going for them at all times.
Yeah.
So play around your cooldowns and make sure not to throw the game there, because that actually prevented the entire team from getting the fort in the top right corner. That was a huge mistake that cost Imported Support.
They did catch up in experience, though, a little bit.
They're getting there.
And they do have enough for another turn-in. They're all going to try to drop off. This is actually a race. It's who clicked it first. With 23 in, it's going to be Gale Force getting that turn-in. Oh, no, excuse me. Imported Support barely beating the race there. So that's going to be the back-to-back. They didn't manage to secure a single fort, but at least the top and the mid lane are a little bit more pushed in than they were before.
Now, I'm watching the rotations here for Imported Support. What are they going to do? We already see Gale Force pushing in the top lane to negate that Web Weaver, as the weakest fort is in the top right corner, so that prevents an easy fort for Imported Support. I want to see Hecker MJ sitting in the bushes of the flanks that could be coming their way, because rotation's been happening so much that he needs to scout that out so his team doesn't get caught off guard. We do see all the members on the far right here. I need to see Draded and Hecker MJ hold that top right. Are they going to hold it? They see 3 people in front of them. They need to watch out because they could be flanked here.
So Leo's just kind of waiting at the top, covering that flank. Udall's got the bottom half with the Bone Prison at the ready. The Gust Beautiful cleanse coming out
It's
there
so
from
telegraphed.
Akaface.
Shot is trying so hard to get a pick off that Akaface just watches him and he's ready for a cleanse every single time. This type of strategy that worked in the qualifiers is not going to work against Gale Force, and we've seen it multiple times already. The Entomb will come out. It was a bit wasted. Lasers in the top right corner. The fight is
Nice
happening.
Thunder, though.
Reported.
Ancestral is going to be there for Fan. A nice maw in the front on 3 members, and everyone on the side of Imported support, they are just getting evaporated. Beautiful Poison Nova. The spread damage, but they only managed to get the single kill.
The damage from Poison Nova connected with 4 members there, and HotS is trying his best to get the heals out here, but already the push has been stopped in the bottom lane. However, the Web Weavers did get some value in the middle and the top, getting 2 forts here, and if you look at the experience here, 17 to 17, so the disengage was pretty solid here from Imported.
That Brightwing healing potential with this build, we saw it there.
Yep.
Everyone had that huge poison on them, a lot of damage over time, and then a lot of supports would struggle to manage to heal through that. But everyone just slowly but surely, as Brightwing spammed out those abilities, topped off.
Yeah, it works if you're able to disengage and sustain. They had a good 5 to 6 seconds to get away from the fight, so it works out. The thing for Gale Force is they have to land a follow-up after they land that damage, or just be aware that they've won the fight already and go turn in. And that's where Gale Force gets the value here. Even though Brightwing gets through all the healing and she saves her teammates, Gale Force gets a free turn in, and they've already got their lanes pushing out. So they get the value in that regard because they've won that team fight just by hitting the Devouring Maw and the Poison Nova.
Well, they're sitting in a good spot once more now, though, Gale Force. Even though they just lost 2 forts, they managed to find that turn-in, and the middle lane is wide open. This is the first keep that they're going to be gunning down, trying to eliminate and grabbing that large advantage as the catapults.
Yeah, Udall's the only one playing a little bit aggressive here because he knows he has Akaface to back him up. There is an control blast that comes in, but it also allows him to proc his trait so he can get the push here to be just that much stronger into the keep. The keep is the main target for this team. As you know, they're mainly full wave clear until they hit that Devouring Maw Poison Nova combo. The
Shot.
Gust does come out. There goes the Sundering.
And the Sundering was decent, but they haven't found the damage quite yet. A big Poison Nova, though. Everyone's getting pulled into it. Udall will get that Ancestral heal at the last moment, and just the single-man Maw. 2 members very low in the back. Draded and HotS will live on, but ETC, the one that was caught in the Maw, not so lucky. This keep will fall down. Gale Force should just back away with their prize.
Yeah, keep being taken out. They're on the way to level 20. Akaface is taking some damage here from Ignition and HotS.
So ham.
There isn't really that much burst here, though, so Akaface can play around that. He does that nicely. He also has the ability to heal up himself as he goes into that Rhaegar form. And there goes the Entomb on Ignition. The Spell Shield will come out, but is it enough? It does not appear to be so. 2 keeps have been killed off. Now, the question is, can they start threatening core? They have pushing in the top. They have pushing in the middle lane as well. But in terms of actual auto attacks, Cigar is really the main damage here unless Zul gets up there. So they decide to go ahead and pull on back unless they get another pick off. Shot does get hit by Gravity Lats, but he's a little bit too far away. So Gale Force does the right play, pulls away, and gets ready for another turn in so they can push with level 20.
You know, I want them to start the boss as well because then it's like a guaranteed GG. It's like, I don't even know that it's necessary because of where they're sitting, and maybe the boss is that risk that could lose them the game.
Oh, yeah.
But like,
I don't know, Jake.
Yeah.
It's so risky.
Yeah.
First off, they don't have burn potential, and then second off, they don't have Devouring Maw. So if Imported support does move in for an engage, they can't really stop it from happening or for them being able to get into a position where they could take it away. I like the safer play of just getting the turn in and going for a push, but I think if they do get the boss, like you were mentioning, they win the game hands down. So would be a decent call if they were able to get it.
okay, well, they're just going to opt for the safe turn in, posturing for that last and final keep in the bottom lane. And they do have those level 20 Storm Talents at their advantage. So
they do.
You have Storm Shield to cast that out there, and then Spectral Leech on Leoric. Like, if B-Kid hasn't really been dying anyways, but you throw a Spectral Leech in the mix and good luck.
So they finally have the pressure here in the bottom. We're watching Draded here. He's going to have to hit a money sundering, and I'm going to need to see a good mosh pit eventually from Hecarim J. I don't think he's even tempted to go for a mosh pit yet. There goes the Mighty Gust. There goes the sundering. Hecarim J does come in. He gets one person in the mosh pit as he saw someone bolt away, I believe. And Crowan and team are just turning this fight around. Hecarim J is being jumped away from the fight here. The tank has fallen, and now HotS and Shot are looking to take some damage as well if Fan can get on top of them. The Gravity Lapse does miss, however. Akaface is bringing the pressure on Brightwing. She will be able to blink tail away, but look at all the minions. This is surely game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you explained it earlier, Trick. Just a little bit too choreographed. The way that whole engage was. A good attempt there with the defense for imported support, but GG's game 1 cleanly going to Gale Force Esports.
Yeah, that looked really easy, which is unfortunate because imported support, I talked about them before this matchup, and they were feeling very confident. They were mentioning if we can take game number 1, we have 3 game series that we believe we can win with our plan. That plan is now thrown out the window.
Well, I'm curious what the analysts thought of that match.
All right, thank you very much, boys. As, of course, JFE are able to take the first victory here in this series against Imported Support. And as they mentioned on the desk, Imported Support kind of came in pretty confidently, or at least they thought that they were going to be confident in this position. But that was basically a dismantling. GFE played it slow, to be fair, in that position, but was able to take the victory. But could they have played it a little bit differently, Dredd?
I mean, I feel like their mid game was definitely questionable in some of the choices they decided to go with. Even the rotations in the early game, like the game was always in Gale Force's hands, but I feel like that was just draft. They definitely had a dominant early game draft, and that map complements it. But the rotations were almost never kind of on the same page, and I feel like there was a lot of moments where they didn't seem to be working as a unit very effectively. So I guess the game was always in their hands, but I didn't feel like they were just crushing. I thought that game, honestly, after the first level lead that we saw, pre-10, I was like, 13-minute game, like 14-minute game, maybe. They're going to get 2 keeps, and even if they don't win then, it's going to just look impossible for Imported to come back.
Well, let's take a look at some of the highlights from this. ETC tries to escape. It was a nice attempt at trying to escape, but unfortunately not to be.
It seemed like the ETC had no response to getting entombed over and over. They kept focus firing him in the team fights. And we saw a lot of Sunders come out that just did pretty much nothing. It was kind of tragic. I mean, it seemed like every time Sunder came out, it either knocked the target away or they couldn't get the kill, and the Rhaegar just saved him. It felt like Imported Support was just ineffective every time they went for the team fight.
What do you think about GFE's team fight as a whole, Dredd? Because, I mean, we just saw the Maw into Poison Nova, which was only able to secure them 1 kill during it. But, I mean, of course, they were still victorious, so it's still fine. But could they have got more from those kind of situations? What do you think? How do you think the dynamic works?
I think they did it pretty well, like in that Maw into the Poison Nova. Like, that was a situation where they almost killed a lot of people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it was just a little bit because Fam was isolated. He wasn't able to help confirm with a little bit of damage and everything. I think that part was fine. But, again, it didn't look like... I don't know. They just didn't look as dominant as I guess I expected that draft to be, especially like we looked at that first replay. It was like 11-9, and they have another turn, and they have all 3 forts down. Like, that comp, you just look at it, and you're like, how do you even come back from that? And it looked pretty close.
No. Was there anything from Imported Support that you saw that was maybe a redeeming factor to that game, that situation that they're in, them being on the stage here? How do you think they reacted and played on their first game on a stage like this?
It seemed like the stage pressure really got to them. Okay. Honestly, going into this event, I think they should have been, calm, relaxed. They're underdog. You don't have to worry about it. You came in 8th seed. If you bomb out, even if you 0-4, it's not a tragedy for you. You can come back the next time. TNC has had rough events before, and we've seen them grow into a respectable team.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Imported Support showed up, and land jitters were a really serious issue for them.
Dredd, do you echo those sentiments?
I think so. Even in players we know have a history of playing at LAN, like even with Shot. I mean, he got caught out with 28 gems, I think, roughly on him in situations where it's like, did you really need to be there? So I think it even happened for him. So I agree. I felt like the whole team kind of jittered.
All right, well, our next map is going to be Sky Temple, for those of you out there, as well as my 2 analysts here. So what are you expecting, really, from this map? Considering what we've seen from GFE so far, this game seemed like more of a getting into the swing of things, a bit of a wake-up. It's early here in the morning, just trying to get into the flow of things. On Sky Temple, do you expect them to just assert themselves a little bit more after seeing what we saw there against Imported Support?
I think they're just going to keep playing standard and, kind of go relaxed with it. They don't want to show any strategies before they have to. They have a tough round to get into the top 4, so I expect them to play standard in this game.
All right, well, let's get into the draft powered by HotS once again here, Dredd. Let's see what's going on.
We got the Falsehead, Murd, and Zag. Those have been some of the highest contested heroes across the board at this tournament. Not surprised. Imported now in this rotation, I expect them to do something a little bit surprising. I did want to note that Sky Temple functions at least a bit like how we saw Gale Force play the last game. Not so much in the compositions, but in the tempo of it. I think we can, even though we may consider them a better team, it will not be like a crush, or at least I don't expect it to, just because this map doesn't really complement that kind of play.
Okay, I have a question about the Ariel bans already coming out from Gale Force. They've banned that first twice now in these games. Is that a sign that maybe, well, of course they don't particularly want to play against it, but that they particularly don't like playing with it as well in case the option becomes available to them later down the line?
At this point, it could just be mind games too.
Okay.
If you ban that out consistently against your first opponent, let's say you think imported support can only beat you with Ariel Cho'Gall,
Yeah.
then you ban out the Ariel and you're sending a signal that maybe you can't play it, and you can misdirect some of your opponents in later drafts.
Right.
We do see the Brightwing very early for imported. That's something I think we'll see a bit more of today, obviously, with Akaface. It's something that he plays always, so I think that other teams may as well be picking up a Brightwing a bit more than we saw yesterday as well. Abathur banned for Gale Force. Imported now, I mean, Gale Force's comp is very straightforward, I guess, so far. A lot of options and avenues it can go, so they really need to figure out with the Zag, Brightwing, and Greymane, what do they not want to see the most? I think I would like to see them move towards a removal of DPS. It could be, Sylve is an option, one that I think would be a pretty reasonable ban actually here. They go with the Illidan instead, that makes sense as well. Such a great hero on this map.
Plus, you don't want to play against Gale Force's Illidan.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
two insane Illidans. Don't want
Sure.
to have to deal with that.
That's actually a really good point that you bring up, though. It's interesting to see how the roles were in that first game. For example, Fan on Kale Fast. So it's interesting to like look forwards in this draft and kind of theorize as to who's going to be on what on Gale Force, because they could still mix things up a lot, right?
I think the only way to determine it is which melee they play, is how
Right.
you'll be able to figure it out. I think they
Ooh.
choose like that very fast. And now, I mean, Gale Force has honestly not only tier 1 heroes, but like Sonya's kind of fallen off recently, but more just tier 1, but very standard. Like exactly what you view when it's like the standard. We have our melee, he's a bruiser, we got the Murden,
Yeah.
we have a really good mage and a great support.
Gale Force pretty much is showing nothing here.
Yeah.
No matter what strats they have prepared, no matter how they feel about the meta right now, they're literally playing as textbook NA basically as you possibly can.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's going to be helpful for them going into their next matches. They've shown nothing. Like we saw Denial had to show their Medivh. They had to show their Ariel. They showed that stuff early, the double support
Yes.
preference. Gale Force is just showing us, hey, we're playing NA standard meta from like 3 patches ago. What are you going to do about it?
And still probably winning. So it's getting them to where they need to be here. That is the important part about it. Important support have 2 more pickups, wanting a warrior and something else along with it. Hello there, Shot.
It's like a Smexy remix there with the eyebrow effect. That's
A
weird.
Smexy remix.
Yeah.
From the dubstep that we had from 2013 in the commercials before.
Yeah. And then Tychus and Leoric for imported. Leoric is showing way more of this tournament than I thought he was going to. I think for sure he has a spot in specific maps and
Yeah.
compositions, but I'm amazed at how frequent he just kind of is like, we'll throw a Leoric here and a Leoric here.
I'm so glad everyone's back on the Hard and Bones train at level 4 because for a while nobody was picking it and Leoric was dying left and right. We're like, why are we dying? Why are we dying? I'm like, because you don't have Hard and Bones. It's difficult to get away in Wraithwalk, but there you go.
Tychus also is one of the reasons this sort of Sonya fell off a little bit, I would say,
Yeah.
is when Tychus got buffed, it got a lot harder to contest that front line with 2 really heavy bruisers as opposed to a more explosive melee assassin. And now that Tychus is in the game and imported support has picked that up, it's actually going to be pretty difficult for Gale Force to posture aggressively with this Sonya
Ooh.
without taking heavy trades.
And Reyna.
Jimmy, he's here.
So they go the American skin. I mean, is that a thing? Like,
I mean, I think it's a must-have.
it's the most important part of it,
Pretty
surely.
much, that's the only reason they picked him, was his skin.
Yeah.
But he's going to provide a lot of kill potential onto the Rainer, or excuse me, Leoric. Overall, they both, I think that last pick kind of put it into position where we looked at the composition of Gale Force and it was kind of, we can dive, but we don't have to.
Yes.
And then when we saw the transition into the Tychus Leoric, Imported says, we want to sit back and let you move into us, and then we're going to be able to get a really good counter engage. The Rainer is now another pick that will be okay with now just them sitting back, right? You get the Leoric now has to move up to try and force that fight. He has to face a Rainer and a Sonya smashing into his face with his seismic slam.
Wow.
With their tongue twister, but still, it's an interesting approach. I don't know if I would say that I think it's the greatest pick in the world, but I don't think it's bad.
I'm a little surprised they picked Raynor over like a Sergeant Hammer or something.
Yeah, I agree.
Not that I'm the biggest fan of Sergeant Hammer, but in that composition, it would have been a really good kiting tool, and it's so hard for Leoric to get in range of Sergeant Hammer. Plus, if he even entombs you, you can just blast him away and then boost her out all quick-like. And I'm just concerned Raynor hasn't really been impressing me lately. He just doesn't seem to do enough. It's like a worse version of Tychus right now, I feel like.
You say that,
Yeah.
but is the skill difference between these teams currently enough for them to just say, we'll pick this and then just be fine?
I think they can get away with it. Yeah, I agree. I don't think I see many reasons where I would go Raynor, unless it comes to a sieging situation to where I feel like a burst sieging, if that is even a thing, where Hyperion drop, just everybody W, and get so much damage out. But overall, I agree. I think I would have liked to hammer it there if that's the route they're going to go. But I think it was nice to see adaptation on the side of GFE, realizing this is what they're going to want to do. We can make it. We can adapt too.
All right, going into game number 2, fan on Raynor here for Gale Force Esports. It's really quite an exciting time here in North American Heroes as they're going up against Imported Support once again. Let's take a look, boys. Who do you think is going to really shine here for you, and who is important?
Michael Udall on Sonya is going to have to dance really well at the front of that fight to avoid getting crushed by the Tychus Leoric combination.
Right.
So I think it's going to come down to his tempo control for the most part.
Yeah, I think Mike's patience, and then for me, it's going to be Ignition. I think he's got to be really effective on Zag if they're going to be able to win.
All right, well, thank you very much, guys. We'll check in with you after the game, of course. Here it will be Gale Force Esports going up against Imported Support. Imported Support currently 1 game down here in our first series of the day, as they are going to have a little bit of a difficult time here against Gale Force Esports. But before we do go to those guys, of course, aside from the fact that you've got something like Fan playing Raynor and things like that, do you think we'll end up seeing him just kind of go through a diverse set of roles throughout this tournament? So far, in the past 2 games, we've only seen him on ranged. It's only 2 games, but will we see maybe even a more focus on melee? What are you expecting from Gale Force as a whole this tournament?
I think it's like Zeratul. I want to say Zeratul and Thrall, maybe. We'll see Fan. Zeratul, and there's got to be another one that we'll see Fan specifically, and then every other time he'll be unranged.
Yeah.
I think it's only the few melees is currently what they're going with when it comes to who's going to be playing what.
Plus, Fan has historically had an enormous hero pool in the sort of diverse heroes, like the specialist Sylvanas Abathur play. He's been known for that for a long time as well.
Right.
So I think it actually gives them a lot of strength in availability to go with different strategies. You can have Crone play mages and then Fan play specialists. We saw Crone play Zagara last game. You can do it that way also. So I think they actually have a lot of flexibility if they've figured out how to best use the tools at their disposal.
Is there room for Imported Support to have some kind of success here on this map? I mean, when looking at, say, for the wave clear potential on either side, does Gale Force have a position early in the game where they can take full dominant control, or is it a little bit more even here in these rosters?
With those, it comes down to a lot like the Sonya control in the early rotations and how they decide to play that out, mixed with how the rotations work, having a Zagara, a dominant laner, and a global. Imported has that going for them in the early first 2 rotations of the Shrines. But really, when it comes down to it, overall, it should be Leoric dying. Like, Leoric can win any game. He genuinely can because of the factor that you get a kill and you suddenly go, normal games, you chuckle and you go, what can we get? And you calculate what you can get. Everything about Leoric drops back the opportunities of what you can get by a large margin.
Yeah.
So suddenly what was a keep is a keep front wall and a giant camp. But if you mess that up even half a second, suddenly momentum completely swings, right?
Definitely.
So it comes down to just being patient.
All right, well, thank you very much, guys. We'll check in with you after the game, and thank you very much for your patience out there. We're heading over to the Xfinity casting desk with Jake and Trixler for game number 2.
All right, guys, we are in the thick of things already. That first watchtower already being grabbed by GFE, and Sean finding himself out of position, sub 30 seconds.
The theme of what happened in game number 1, people getting picked off, is already starting here in Sky Temple. First off, when you lose the watchtower, you've lost the game. So just get away from it, okay? That's a fact. We know that from Hero League. But second off, you know 5 people are walking towards you. You don't need to be in that scenario. Shot making a big blunder there. And I think Dunk hit it on the nail of the head here. Really, when it comes down to it, it feels like Imported Support is just having their nerves consistently being hit here. They're just so shocked to even be on this big of a stage that it keeps throwing them off.
I mean, it's tough, especially when you're here at an event like PAX West. It's definitely a daunting challenge.
Yeah. Well, just real quickly here, we have the poll once again. Imported Support getting 67% of the votes. People are believing. They want to see a game number 3. We'll see if they will be able to achieve that. Now, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this. Gale Force Esports did draft a comp that could have ran the Bloodlust Dream. I saw your face light up.
Oh, I was there now.
Unfortunately, Falstad went Gathering Storm.
It's not like the end of the dream. The dream's not dead.
It's still a
but
possibility.
it's unlikely. And
Yeah.
if you see AA Falstad, it's like, oh, maybe it is Bloodlust, right? That's cool. But who knows?
I did want to also mention that the ban on Abathur kind of makes a little bit of sense here. I do feel like it's kind of a weird ban with Zagar already being in the mix, as it's kind of doubling up on the whole like split pushing and getting out of control of the battleground. But there was a lot of double gray main being run in the qualifiers, and that's still relatively strong, especially when you have a win condition opened up and you want to go for the core. So the Abathur ban did make a little bit of sense. All right, here we go. Already, we're here at the Temple Shrines.
Taking a lot of damage. Shot up. As they were mentioning on the analyst panel, that shot on the Tychus is a big threat to Sonya and Muradin. This double front line, they're both kind of bruisery, especially modern-day Muradin, where he wants to stay in the battle. Like, you can even throw out that grenade to interrupt the Dwarf Toss as he's going forward with it. It's no longer unstoppable. So there's, like, a lot of cool things about Tychus as a hero, but unfortunately, if they keep getting picked off like this, it might not matter.
Already 2 kills being awarded here to Gale Force. Yeah, this comp that Gale Force was running used to be the unkillable comp. It seemed almost impossible to kill that front line, but Tychus came in and really kind of busted down the door on that strategy, and so it's something that we're going to have to be keeping an eye on for Shot and how he's dealing with that front line. And also, as mentioned by Dreadnought, we got to watch him. We're going to have to see how he's dancing and make sure to stay out of those shots.
All right, Hecarim trying to peel here for a shot. The dash forward, Brightwing face shifting in. Every single member here of imported support will be able to slip away. And they did do a ton of damage to the top lane. They controlled that top shrine. They pushed in, nearly got a fort. So even though they lost a couple members, experience is actually dead even in this game. Zagara's been owning this bottom lane, netting themselves a strong advantage. I mean, we've talked about this matchup, Zagara-Falstad, and
it's a hard matchup.
Just going to town.
Especially with Medusa Blades being picked up there, the wave clear is so quick for Zagara. All she has to do is watch out for rotation. She's got creep tumors already all over the place, and by having 4 people pushing the top lane and putting pressure on the fort, you force Gale Force to move all the way across the battleground and allow Zagara to do her thing in the bottom lane, and she is doing just that.
Okay, Trick. Hammer gains level 4. Self-heal on the auto attack.
Okay.
So we've got Gathering Storm level 1 to go more for the Q build, but Hammer gains at level 4. Now, we just saw Haas playing Brightwing. There are counters that exist on this team to Bloodlust if it was picked up. I know I like to talk about this a lot, but if we see AA Falstad, it is a real threat. Now we do have Boomerang being picked up, so all right, less likely.
Bit of a hybrid build there.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen, but I'm assuming we're going to go with the Ancestral. I did want to mention that I like the Jimmy here, Mr. Rainer himself.
The Jimmy.
Yeah, when you get to level 10, grabbing temples becomes infinitely easier when you have the Hyperion available. It's such a good zoning tool, and opposing teams are forced to walk away, wait for the duration to go away, or if you walk into it, you just lose the fight. So Hyperion with Rainer here gives a lot of sensibility, and looking at the build, he's just going for survivability. He's got the level 1 talent that gives you the extra
give me more
healing. Yeah, if he can get through Greymane first, he'll be in a great position.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's definitely an uncommon hero. We've seen him, I believe, once so far this weekend already. It was a Giant Killer style versus Cho'Gall. And this is, slightly different, a little bit more on the survivability end, but it's definitely something that Fan is more than confident in playing.
Another note, too, is Imported Support loves to grab Mercenary Camps in this battleground very early. They've already grabbed Knights, 2 minutes ago, and Giants as well. This allows for them to get pressure going everywhere here and putting pressure on that fort, which means Brightwing can stay up there and maybe kill up the fort by himself. However, Brightwing does get soloed by Falstad in the very far top left corner, which is very painful. Now Falstad can fly on down. Hecarim J has already been poked around. Shot trying to bring in damage, but here comes the hammering from Throwin, and he applies so much damage that literally Shot goes down to a quarter HP.
Did have the well available, so he's able to tap that. The fact that they had already kind of won this bottom lane with Zagara earlier in this game from Ignition has made the situation not, like, dire for them. They still had that well. Their wall is just now falling, but things are, still trickling away down in XP as these structures fall. Level 10 is just about here for Gale Force.
Shot does move to the very far top right, and he's going to overkill that fort there and get himself a little bit closer to that level 10, which is very great here, because the Shrine just finishes up in the bottom, but all infrastructure is up for Imported Support, meaning that if Imported Support did want to move to the bottom right corner and grab that fort, they could get to level 10. But Gale Force, realizing that Tychus was in the top, 2 people are in the middle, they just all in this fort, going to level 10 here, and now grabbing the heroics. Let's look at Redgar. He is going Ancestral Healing.
Sad.
The dream one day will work for you. Out of the many tournaments that you cast, you will eventually see a game that has it.
It's still a really cool composition, though. I mean, with Revolution Overdrive, Fan can stutter step like a boss just running around. You see that movement speed he has when he's around his team. And the big heal is necessary for that double front line. Michael Udall will get the Ancestral Heal, tops up off. Jada goes down there in the bottom with the Dwarf Toss flying on in, and that is the Hyperion you're talking about. I mean, the fort has so much pressure on it.
The Maul comes in, grabbing 2 people here, and B-Kid is taking some damage. Zagara gets focused down, though. 2 members already down for imported support. It's crazy. Even when imported support looks like they're doing something right, they're still getting absolutely destroyed here. The amount of skill for Gale Force Esports is just much higher than this team. The coordination's a little bit too much. HotS is in trouble, and Jimmy comes up from the top right corner and delivers the final blow.
Taking a penetrating round right between the eyes. It does not feel good that little fairy dragon has to respawn now. So yes, this is going to be another fort going down for Gale Force, starting to push themselves ahead with a full level lead. And top damage, Jimmy himself.
That's what he does, man. He brings the pain. Right now, you're going to see Gale Force fan out a little bit, heal up, start grabbing anything that they can. Mercenary Camp should be coming up in the next minute or so. So all they have to do is get pressure on the lanes and keep an eye on the boss, because when it does come to imported, they can be crazy sometimes. They may see an opportunity where they just go straight in for the boss and they don't even care about what the opponent has. Even if they have Mighty Gust. We've seen it in the past. It all comes down to Shot and making his calls.
Yellow status, definitely an option. They got the bottom fort, which is a nice victory for them. Only 1 fort remaining on either side of the map. Shrines will be split, 1 at top, 1 on the bottom, both now being activated. But there still is that looming threat of level 13 in the favor of Gale Force. So they don't need to take a fight. They can soak mid, soak top, grab that shrine. Once the fort goes down, which shouldn't take too long, they can then rotate around and try to just punish imported support for being down.
And we actually have a tweet here. Gale Force is on their game this morning. They have definitely ate their Cheerios, man, as they are just bringing all the pain for their opponents. Currently 6-0 right now. HotS and Shot trying to come up here and help contest maybe this top temple. The laser is going to have to be used here. It's being burned down. Draded, though, does pick off Rhaegar, being a little bit on the aggressive side now. B-Kid, he gets polymorphed. Okay, HotS is showing up. I see you. All 5 members up here in the top right lane. There are shots hitting this fort right now, but suddenly imported is getting closer to ever 13, and they can also start grabbing the shrine at the top.
Yeah, they can rotate down. Brightwing can just hold top. Everyone else can rotate. Try to punish in the bottom. Falstad should be able to get the rest of the shots, but they can still look to invade that mercenary camp on the right side. But yeah, we were talking about that Muradin. I mean, B-Kid is known for that hero, and he always has been, but he's also the kind of Muradin player that stays as long as humanly possible. He wants you to spend as many skill shots as you can. And in the past, when you had the Unstoppable with Dwarf Toss, he would get away with murder left and right. But nowadays, even like in Burbank, there's so many situations in which he overstays his welcome just a little bit.
Yeah, something that you kind of have to balance out now. Now you get that resistance for those that don't know. You're no longer unstoppable. A bit of a change there, but yeah, you've seen that polymorph coming in and really bringing that punishing shot, though, however, will be gunned down there. Couldn't even run and gun away. Crowan bringing in that hammering, helping out with the damage, and all 5 members pounce on their target. Hecarim J as well being burned. The rotations here are just too quickly, and I feel like imported could prevent a lot of these if they would always dedicate somebody to looking in a bush. Sit in a bush, watch out for the ganks that are coming around, and also watch your flanks. If they watch those, they lose 1 member instead of 2. If they do get caught, or if they get enough of a telegraphed gank coming their way that they could walk away. Boss call has been made. HotS in trouble as well, and he's being taken out. There goes the polymorph. The maw is pretty big, but is there any follow-up?
Well, there's 3 members into the ancestral heal. Will connect, but Rhaegar does end up falling. The nice Ancient Spear confirming the kill. Another one on ignition, and Hecarim J gonna try to escape, but Fan with a penetrating round. Can he survive this versus Draded? Not quite, but Draded goes down as well.
Hecarim is being focused as well. I believe he has used Wraith Walk already. It's about to come up pretty soon here, but Shot is being focused down. Udall going for the chase here. Wants that tasty kill. Unfortunately, not quite getting it. Hecarim J is low, but there is a follow-up. 4 members being taken down. Fan buying just enough time there to delay their opponents to where his teammates could turn around and win that fight, and they do just that. However, they will not be able to grab the boss.
Small consolation prize. Boss got down to about 10% HP, did not end up getting picked up in full. So, okay. Well, it's now level 16. That's the big threat here on the side of imported support. Structurally, though, they're pretty darn even. If they can grab that mid 4, that'll help them catch up in experience. It's incredibly low right now. They're going to just start with the Night Camp, try to buy some space in the top lane, push that in, find the distraction, then walk forward. I mean, we've been seeing those grenades be a great utility to just throw. There's no quarterback, but it's still a great resource for trying to apply the damage to the structures.
It's very unfortunate for imported because Gale Force is about to hit level 16, which gives them that power spike, but Hyperion is down, which means they could go for an all-in engage here on the temple. Because I feel like if this temple is lost and Akeep is killed off, that starts getting to the point where it's almost game. for Imported. They will have a really hard time coming back. They've already shown that they can't keep up with the pressure that's coming their way, and they continue to keep faltering. And I feel like this is the moment where they make that play to come back in the game. Brightwing's in the top trying to grab a fort. They're actually going to grab the fort here in the middle and start getting close to 16. So once they get 16, they need to go. But the problem is Hyperion is up in 10 seconds, which allows Gale Force to hold this point.
The whole team was like thinking about rotating up to Falstad, which almost never works. Like the best thing you're going to do is bait out the Mighty Gus, and that cost them precious time. The benefit is Gale Force actually rotated up as well, thinking that was happening. Missed the rotation happening here for Import Support.
Oh, wow.
Now Udall is caught out by himself. So I don't know if it was like the master juke they just did, or if it was just like indecision, but regardless, it threw Gale Force off.
Yeah, Gale Force was not expecting that aggression from Imported, and I like seeing it. They need that pick off, and now they grab the shrine down here, and they start getting their own pressure on the keep down the bottom right. This is a big play for Imported, and it puts them in a scenario here where they can start holding the game. They're even going for the boss. Now, B-Kid is doing what I've wanted Imported to do the entire time. Look around the objectives and hang out in the bushes so you can call it to your teammates where they're at. B-Kid moving down, Akafe showing up as well. Here comes Fan with the Hyperion.
The Gus is going to be a big issue. This boss is just about dead, and it's ripe for the picking. Unless they have that Wraith Walk to stay on, Leoric does. He's hanging out, but he dies. They're trying to jump in on the point. Draded will fall quickly. Haas will follow. The Ancestral Heal keeping B-Kid alive barely, and the boss has been stolen. And now with that Earthgrass Totem, there is no chance of Shot escaping.
Yeah, Hyperion and Mighty Gust are just a little bit too powerful in those scenarios. You need Leoric to live there, but Leoric got poked down. Nice call by Raynor. Fan just came in there and started applying that damage. So even when he did Wraith Walk away and still hold that boss for his team, he still just got focused down, and then at that point, you just have Crowan move forward and you grab the boss for free. Now they can push his bottom left, start grabbing the keep here. Potentially, they could start moving towards a kill here. They don't have Illidan, though, but we do know Udall loves to call for cores whenever he does have Illidan, or Sonya. But however, he's already up in the top right corner, which indicates to me that they're not going to go for the core kill. They're going to go ahead and play it safe.
Yeah, they probably won't even get through the shields here. I mean, the boss will be burned down quickly enough. But he's going to soak the top lane, fall back onto the Bruiser camp. Falsa just topped off. They've got more than a level lead right now. Just wait for 20, play safe, and win the video game.
They're continuing to keep up their pressure throughout the game, and even though we've had a couple of kills here that were, I would say, impressive for Imported Support, because we haven't seen them getting too many important kills throughout this game, still, Gale Force is just in a situation where they feel like they've been ahead the entire game, and there's almost no competition.
B-Kid just kind of trying to lurk in the shadows. Will be found, but just going to have to Dwarf Toss away. Yep, everyone is just pushing on forward. Hecarim J not going to be able to connect that Entomb to lock them down.
Yeah, they're just trying to apply some pressure so they get some breathing room, so they can actually move out, set up around the temple, and try to get into a scenario where they could pick somebody off like we saw earlier against Sonya. Now with 2 temples being up, we have Falstad and Brightwing, which will be the key people to watch here and how they handle these fights. The other 4, it looks like for Imported, are going to start moving towards that top and start applying a pressure on anyone that has less than numbers here. You want to get the number advantage and try and burst somebody quickly.
Man, the first, like, 5th of both shrines just got picked up for free, though, on the side of Gale Force. And when you're already down a keep, and you're like, running out of structures, that is a lot of damage you don't want to take.
Okay, so Gale Force looks to hold the middle, and that's fine. They're just trying to buy their time until they get to level 20. They have Falstad pushing the bottom left, and then whenever they do hit 20, they'll make their move on whatever target they can move towards. Greymane is prime target, and Tyke is prime target. You take out those 2, and you're in a great scenario.
Yeah, Epic Flight is here with level 20. The rewind there on Murden, giving them incredible control of the fights, the double jump, the double Storm Bolt. But the focus on Michael Udall looking sufficient to ignore pain. The Ancestral Heal after the Storm Shield will keep him alive. Hyperion raining from above onto Hecarim J. Traded so very low in the back, but the Poly peeling just enough. Does he still have to rewind? The Gus from behind on all 3 members, and the Maw trying to buy the space they need, but it's not going to be enough with only Hecarim J surviving. Yeah,
that's a Udall and Akka face synergy coming to full effect there. Knowing that Akka was on the way for a save, we're going to have Crowan fly in and try to get this bottom lane pushing so his entire team can move down and be prepped for a core kill. This is going to be game. Gale Force Esports is going to take an easy 2-0 in the series and go on to the winter finals.
I mean, so many people have such high expectations for Gale Force, adding Fan to the roster as their new 5th members. GG, well played, Gale Force with the 2-0 victory.
Yeah, just showing the mechanics here, feeling a little bit more skilled. Their opponents, Imported Support just not able to keep it up. And Gale Force, look at that. pat themselves on the back, ready to go on to the next round. But we're going to have another series coming up first. It's going to be Naventic versus the wonderful
Astro Authority.
That's it, Astro Authority.
Yeah.
I was thinking Equinox the entire time, Astro Authority.
Oh man, Equinox, he's a boss.
I'm
But
excited for that match, man.
there's so many good teams here. It's so interesting to see where Naventic's standing now that Fan is now on Gale Force.
Yeah.
Like, I have such high expectations for them, but making those adjustments with only weeks to do, Gale Force showed they can do it. And Naventic's easily the other favorite, but there you can see just, the GGs. Congratulations to the Import Support making it to this event.
Yeah.
They still have their chance in the lower bracket.
Talking to them earlier, they were just happy to be here.
Yeah.
They came in confident. I think you need to come in confident just to even have a chance of beating a top-tier team like Gale Force, and unfortunately they were unable to do so. But it's great to see that they have competitive spirit. They want to be here. I would love to see them in the next couple weeks playing in the mini tournaments popping up in September, and of course stay together as a roster, work on that chemistry, and work on shaking those nerves, and they could be somewhere, just like we've seen with TNC.
Yeah, I mean, the lower bracket, they still have a chance to prove themselves. It's going to be an uphill battle for sure. Udall will get that Ancestral, and a lot of these nice plays, just clutch moments. I mean, I don't know how many times we saw Gale Force truly showing how much they can push it to the limit. Like, between that last fight where we saw the Ignore Pain coming in, the Storm Shield coming in from Rhaegar, and then the Ancestral Heal just barely clutching out Michael Udall's life and saving him there. But this was kind of the call where I felt like Important Support, they were in the game, but the moment they tried to take this boss while Gust was up, didn't work too well for them.
The problem with this is this happened so much in the qualifiers and they got away with it so much, and when you play against a top-tier team like Gale Force, they kind of get owned there. But let's go to Udall and talk to them in an interview here with J-How.
All right, I am here with Michael Udall. Michael, you guys, you took your time. You guys had a very measured approach. You just guys kind of taking it easy. How'd you feel in game number one?
I mean, we were very confident going into this set. We just didn't want anything to go wrong, if that makes sense. Like, we didn't want to mess up really bad, like do some crazy throw. So we just took it slow. We knew that like consistently we were better than that team, so we just took it slow, I guess.
All right, so game number one, we saw a little bit of a different approach. It's something I haven't seen out of Gale Force. It was kind of that double specialist role. Do you think Fan being on your team allows a little bit more flexibility for strategies for you guys going forward?
Yeah, I mean, Fan has like a huge champion pool. So for me, it's like drafter shot call. It's like amazing. I'm like, hey, can we run this? And Fan's like, I play anything. I'm like, sick. So that's definitely something that Fan adding to the team, it like opens up a lot more compositions.
All right, so going in, obviously you're going to be facing the winner of the next set. Now, a lot of people are going to be looking towards Naventic. It's a familiar foe for you guys. How intently are you guys going to be watching? And are you trying to hold your cards, and do you expect them to be holding their cards before they potentially face you guys?
I mean, I think that's a matchup everyone's been talking about. But I just look at past tournament results. That's a big thing for me. We beat them the last 2 times, so I'm pretty confident going into it again this time.
All right, so when we look at Gale Force, you guys had high expectations going into this set, this regional. You guys want to make it to BlizzCon. I've seen you guys laser focused. How do you guys feel going into this weekend and potentially looking at Sunday?
I mean, we're feeling really good. I think we definitely have a good shot to win it. I think one of the MG players said it best. He said, there's 4 teams that could all win it. And it just depends on whoever shows up that given day. So we just got to show up.
All right, Michael, congratulations. Guys, we're going to be back with the next set between Naventic and Astral Authority, so stay tuned.